Hello, my name is Bruce Sawalski. I'm author of Canadian Wilderness Survival and Chief Instructor of the Boreal Wilderness Institute. And today, I want to review and compare this Kupilika Firesteel 8 with other strikers and take a look at the quality of this striker. So if you like to learn real survival knowledge, then please support me by following me on YouTube and liking this video. So first of all, this Kupilika Firesteel 8 striker is made in Finland, and it is comparable to the Swedish Firesteel Army. And the two are very, very similar. We'll look at a little bit later. Before we go on, I want to talk a little bit about Firesteel, which is the standard rods that we use for fire lighting as strikers. And we even call them a striker. It's really a rod made of alloys. So it's iron ore, aluminum, and 10 other metals. Most of them the rods are made in China. The Kupilika Firesteel 8 is a little different, and which is what attracted me, where it's actually European metal. And like I say, with blades, with knives, with saws, quality steel makes a big difference. Quality metal makes a big difference. And what I've been noticing is a lot of the strikers I've been seeing in the stores and playing with are getting worse and worse and worse. And I think what's going on, and I can't prove it, is that the quality of the ferrocium alloy is being reduced. In other words, some of those metals that are in the small amounts, not the iron ore or the aluminum, are expensive or rarer, and therefore they're cutting those amounts down. And the strikers just aren't up to snuff. This one is. And you'll see this in a moment when we're playing with it. Just like the Swedish Firesteels, they're really, really high quality rods, and they make a big difference. So first of all, let's take a look at this one. And again, it is European made ferrocium alloy. It has a plastic handle with a reasonably decent grip, and I'll compare it in a moment to the Swedish one, and a decent piece of steel. This piece of rawhide is actually reindeer, so it's 100% recyclable and renewable. And the piece of steel is highly sharpened, but I really like this extra piece. And as the more I play with it, the better it is. The other thing you will notice is that as you begin using these rods, you'll start wearing them down. The more you wear it down until it gets to halfway, the better the sparks are. And this is going to make a big difference because this is solid, straight edge like you'd have on a knife. What happens is it doesn't rip the rod apart. So a lot of the jagged edge steels, like old hacksaw blades or whatever junk they give you in a $5 striker, are actually worse. They probably cost them more money to make, but the manufacturers don't really go to the woods anyhow. They don't understand this stuff, so they'll just give you junk and you can't do anything about it. Here you don't have that problem. You'll wear that out. If you look at my Swedish Firesteel, this is a fairly new one, but even then you'll notice that it's rubbed and straight as I begin getting that edge, and that edge will give me thousands of strikes. Here, not quite as many because it'll wear out a little bit faster, but really, really good sparks with really, really good edge and a nice steel. And again, with a long piece of strike edge, you get the space. You can use this with mitts. That makes a huge difference. The other thing about this is what I call a self-contained fire system. So a lot of times we'll get this, and then you'll have your knife edge, and you'll go, and you'll say, well, if I have my knife and I have my rod, I can do this. I have a nice fancy knife that actually has one built right into it. You can pull it out and do that. But I like a self-contained fire system. So if something happens to my knife, this fire system still works. And that's why I like this. The extra weight that this involves is totally irrelevant. I mean, let's be realistic. Unless you think you're going to cut the back of your toothbrush off to save weight, we're not really playing the same game, because this is self-contained and this makes a big difference. So let's take these two head-to-head. I'm going to take this Kupilika Firesteel 8 from Finland and compare it to this Swedish Firesteel Army from Sweden. And these are two top-end ones. Both of them are really, really good. But let's compare and see if this newer one, because this is a newer one that I've just got, is up to snuff. All right. So let's, before we do anything, let's compare this. So there is the ferrocium rod of the Kupilika Firesteel 8. Here it is compared to the Swedish Firesteel Army. And you look, it's a little thinner and a little bit longer. Grip-wise, it has a grip designed. This one has a thumb grip, which is a little better in some ways, really helps on. And again, as I mentioned earlier in my first video, it does help people with small hands. So there's one warning that if you have small hands, you may want to stay with a Swedish Firesteel. Steel-wise, very, very small piece of steel for the Swedish Firesteel, but then that's all you need for the rod. Longer and a little bit sharper. Right, so let's compare. If you can look here, there's the standard sparks. There it is there. Let's try it with a piece of tinder. And no problem at all. No problem at all. Now, this is a piece of tinder which is wax, cotton batten, and a little bit of kerosene. And I'm just going to rip it apart and just show you how a good job this thing does. Now, one thing you'll notice here, take a look at this. See that there? I only struck that 3 or 4 times. It's already getting dirty. And I clean that off. And that's the same thing I do here on the Swedish Firesteel. I always clean this and keep them clean because they that stuff will tend to degenerate. Now again, easy for me to get, lots of arm rest. I got my spark and done. Right, so high quality, works really, really good. Good flame out of that, of course, because it's an excellent striker. So this striker head-to-head with the Swedish Firesteel, just as good. Works well. I find this a handy piece, being able to pull this apart. That makes it really, really nice. Next term for me is going to be taking this thing to the woods a few times and seeing how good I can make use of it. But effectively, head-to-head with the Swedish Firesteel, it's just as good. Self-contained system and excellent European-made ferrocium alloy. So there it is, head-to-head, this Kupilika Firesteel 8 is a high-quality, good striker and worth the money. It's worth the time and effort. It's a very handy made, and it's a self-contained fire system. And as I said earlier, self-contained fire systems make a big, big difference. If you're going to carry it, carry 3 means to light fire anytime you're out, and make sure they're self-contained fire systems. So if you like useful life-saving survival knowledge you learn on this channel, please support me by following me on YouTube, listening and liking other videos on this channel, and by following the Boreal Wilderness Institute on Facebook. Thank you, stay safe, and if you're stranded in the wilderness, just remember, stop and survive.